Welcome to Constructivist Cooking, a better understanding of research and some recipes. My name is Megan, and today we're going to go through a few dishes, a dessert, a main meal, and a side, and together we will actively learn how to interpret, how to make sense, how to ask questions, and also make something that other people can enjoy. So today, as we go through the dishes, we will be explaining a little bit about what it means to think about an idea, test that idea, follow other people's ideas, and also make your own ideas relevant. I look forward to cooking with you. Welcome back. Today, we are going to, as I mentioned, cook 3 dishes. The first is positively postmodern perfect apple pie bars. The side is going to be, it's up to your interpretation, creamy goat cheese pasta with spinach and artichokes. And then finally, let's get fancy. Fancy with a PH. Tastes like chicken, but actually it's pheasant. Let's go. Hi everyone, welcome back. So we're gonna start with those apple bars, and it's going to be a shortbread crust first. So the reason I love these particular recipe and bars is because I love apple pie, but I think it can be a lot of work. You have to take up the whole counter space, and I'm all for making life easier instead of harder. So we'll start with the shortbread crust. And as we're doing that, I want us to think about how in research, we often start with something that is an idea or a paradigm that everyone knows about. For example, apple pie, super American, it's a symbol. What if in research, as a researcher, you take something that everyone assumes to be true and look at it in a different way? So that's what I want us to think about as we make the shortbread crust. The first thing that I'm going to do, and I think it's really important to shout out to the person who I got this recipe from and is inspired by. I kind of add my own little twist to it because her name is Sally McKinney. She's a great blogger I follow. She likes to do a caramel apple, like a salted caramel thing. I don't really like to do that. So I like to just make it simple. That's what everyone likes. I'm gonna melt that butter for just about a minute while I put the other ingredients, 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And like any home cook, oftentimes my tools are discombobulated and not always organized, and that's okay. So I've got 1/4 cup of sugar, and now I'm going to do 1/2 cup of flour. And some people like to measure. I don't. I like to be a little bit lazy. And I just do that, doing that. And then we have just a little bit of salt, 1/4 teaspoon. I just kind of do a little shake. Some people would not approve of that method. And then hopefully our butter's gonna be here soon. I don't want it to pop in the microwave. Yay! It's already done. And they also call for just a wee bit of vanilla extract. I'm gonna add that to the butter. So it's both a liquid. Okay, so I'm gonna put this all together and then we'll press it into the pan that I've prepared. Yummy. And wouldn't you know it, we need another 1/2 cup of flour because something didn't feel right. Oftentimes in research, in the middle of something, you have to go back to your notes. When something doesn't feel right, you consult your notes. You consult other people who have done it before, right? There we go. That's looking more shortbready, isn't it? So nothing is quite like the American apple pie. And in positive research, we often think about how, well, it has to be tested. It has to be done again. And so, well, there's many versions of apple pie out there, great ones, and apple pie bars out there. And what makes positive research so attractive is that it's tried and tested. It's true. No one can dispute it. So sometimes there's some comfort in that, just like an apple pie bar. So we're going to put down this, and then we're going to press with our fingers into, and I'm sorry I didn't talk about that. I just sprayed some nonstick spray at the bottom of the pan. So that it'll come out clean and nice. And now I'm just going to use the back of my spoon, I'm going to use my fingers, and I'm going to press it into the bottom of the pan. Now, I'm now remembering that I need to start the oven. The recipe that I am following, the positive recipe I'm following, that's been tried and true, suggests 300 degrees. Now, normally I would say, that doesn't, everyone just assumes everything's at 350. But I trust Sally because she is someone who has done more testing than me. And so I'm gonna go with what she suggests. And then later on, if I find that's not working, I can change my mind. I can change my method, excuse me, as I go out of the frame. Okay, so I'm gonna start my oven here to 300. Wonderful, so I've made the shortbread crust. Now I'm going to make the apple filling, and I love to use green apples. They have a nice tart flavor. Of course, you could use other types of apples, but this is the most successful. And I think oftentimes it's important to test other types of ideas. And also that's what positive research is taking something that has been working, tweaking it a little bit to find more data. And so I will quickly peel these. I'll put it'll kind of be on fast speed, but you'll join me and we'll see you on the other side. Okay, so let's get ready for our filling. We have 3 apples, which I'll peel, and we're adding some flour and sugar and cinnamon to it. First, we'll get the flour and sugar all ready. You'll need 2 tablespoons of flour. 1, 2, and 1, 2. And then a generous teaspoon of cinnamon. I just like to do quite a few shakes. And as I prepare the apples, I'll be thinking about how there's different stages to research. There is the inquiry stage where ideas are developing and you're getting your paradigm. You're deciding what is the way in which you want to be looking at the thing, the question. And so as I peel these up and change these from their original form to a form that then I can bake, I will be thinking about how often there's factors that go into research that are predetermined, right? That these apples happen to be on sale. So that is what I am using. Oftentimes in research, you do what's available to you at the time based on the questions that are around you. So as I put that together, I also just heard my oven beep. So this crust that we just made together actually has to bake for 15 minutes without the apples. So it's going to kind of get partially done, partially formulated, much like how research kind of starts as a solid idea, you get it going, and then you add to it, right? Let's do this. Doing this last apple together, slicing it as thin as I can. I'm not going to be too particular. Some people might say that, oh, thinner is better, or some sort of blasphemous thing, not being as thin as possible. But I'm for it's all going to the same place. Also, I wanted to point out in my kitchen, we have a compost bucket here. Sometimes in research, part of that's really important to the idea in the first place, or something that helped grow the actual thing, the idea, isn't a part of the end product or the end analysis. But we recognize the germination of that idea, right? Either by citation or maybe in our positionalities, right? So I'm going to toss all this together. Oh, it's gonna be delish. And one thing that I like to do is make sure that it's as evenly coated as possible with all the yummy sugar and flour mixture, because then it all comes together for this yummy layer of apple. So sometimes it can be hard to see. Oh, and look, I didn't even really slice that one. It's always good to go back and double check your work and research, right? So sometimes it's hard to see how everything's going to come together in research from what I've been writing and what I understand. But you can have an idea by looking at other people. Again, is why I'm following Sally McKinney's recipe, but making it my own. So while the shortbread crust is still baking, we're then now going to make the streusel. And the streusel topping is really the best part, and it involves good old-fashioned quick oats, a half a cup. We have a 1 and a 2. This is a 1/4 a cup, so makes my life easier to do it that way. And then we have a 1/3 of a cup of brown sugar. I gotta go get it, and I'll be right back. Forgot to have that out for my ingredients. Sometimes you forget things in research, right? Then you have to go back, maybe to find another source, or without this ingredient, it's not going to taste very good. Okay, so we have a 1/3 of a cup of that. And then my children love to pinch and eat that. We have more cinnamon. I'm just going to do a couple shakes. Not be super exact. Some people would not be okay with that, but it's my kitchen, my recipe, my methods. And 1/4 a cup of flour. Again, where's my 1/4 cup thing I had going? Here we go. 1/4 a cup of flour for the streusel topping. And hopefully that's not in your way. So that's that. And then we have a 1/4 a cup of cubed butter. So I'm going to cut that puppy in half, unpeel it, and I'm going to cut it into cubes and then mix it all together with all this yummy stuff. It's important that your butter is cold. Otherwise, it's all going to kind of mush together. Oftentimes in research, knowing the ideal time to do something or think about a problem or research a problem or an inquiry. For example, my best work is often done early in the morning, but it's hard to be disciplined to get up and do that work. So it takes patience and timing that often have outside factors, sometimes institutional, sometimes personal. But in remembering that how it all comes together in the end will ultimately be the evidence of the work. So I'm going to put that in there, put that to the side, and then I'm going to get my hands dirty. I'm going to take off my rings and I'm going to smush all this together. And talk about how, from my understanding of research, is that it's not a clean process. It, at first, is messy. In the middle, it's also messy. And when it comes out in this pretty paper to be in a journal, for example, the work behind it and really the sweat equity of, and also the invisible labor of emails and drafts and citation work and maybe networking, and certainly with community engaged work, there is so much involved when it comes to partnerships. And so getting messy and being sort of in the mix of it all is really part of the process. It's not some sterile thing, even with, I think, positivist research. It's not a sterile, not a sterile thing. That the real questions, the real work is not elegant, just like right now. So, but the end result will hopefully be nice and pretty and delicious. So I've gotten that nice and crumbly. I feel good about that. Doesn't that look yum? I wish you could smell it. I wish you could see the hard work. Well, you can see it. I wish you could really know all the hard work with your 5 senses. Okay, so I'm gonna wash my hands, and now we wait for the crust to be ready. Once it is, we'll come back. I just took this out of the oven. It's sort of par baked, right? It's a little firm and it smells delicious. I'm gonna bump up the oven to 350 now, per the suggestion of Sally, and I'm going to layer these for our dessert. Super easy, just dump it in. What I like about this particular dessert is that I find that it's a little bit easier than apple pie. It cuts nicer, the squares, the end squares, and so you don't have to have a big piece of pie. You can have just a little morsel. Okay, there you go. And the streusel on top, evenly put, and we'll press this down. Oh, smells delish. Now I think pressing it down helps the whole cutting thing later on. Knowing how much pressure you need, just like in research, sometimes you have to press an idea a little bit further than, whoop, and it might be a little painful. Okay, I'm gonna put this back in the oven, and it stays in for about a half an hour. It's ready. So I'm going to take our apple pie bars out of the oven, and oh, they smell so good. I am going to turn off the oven, and then these are going to sit on the countertop for about 20-25 minutes, and then I'm actually going to put them in the fridge until they're ready to be served. This makes them kind of all ooey and gooey and perfectly cut, and this is how my family really enjoys them. So normally you would think, oh, apple pie bars, apple pie needs to be enjoyed warm. Well, not necessarily. Sometimes in research, things feel like they have to be a certain way, but when another method is maybe applied or a different idea, it can change and be even more delicious. Next, we're going to work on our, it's up to your interpretation, creamy goat cheese pasta with spinach and artichokes. Now, full transparency, I have never made this particular dish before. However, I have experience making pasta dishes in the past. So, like in research, a new project is always just a little bit different than something someone has done before. Often different, same methods or scholars can be used to inform someone's research, but you kind of take on a new adventure. So thanks for going on this adventure with me. We'll get started in just a minute. And we're back. So I already have the pasta cooked here. You'll want the pasta cooked, and then we're making the sauce separately. And when it comes to this dish, I'm thinking about how these flavors, goat cheese, spinach, and artichokes, I really enjoy all together. I don't know if my family will also enjoy them all together. I have a good feeling, but I'm not 100% sure. It will be up to their interpretation. In interpretive research, it's really figuring out or observing someone's lived experience and taking it as it is and sort of reporting it out. So it'll be interesting to see how my family is receptive to their own interpretation of this dish. And my challenge with it is to just sort of accept if they like it or not, and know maybe to add it to our weekly repertoire or not. So the first thing I'm gonna do is heat the pan up to a kind of a mid heat, and I'm going to do a few drizzles of olive oil, glug, glug, glug. And then I'm going to cut up a shallot here, which is basically just, oh, fancy little onion. Could I use white onion? I think so. But I'm actually following a recipe by another blogger. Her name is Alex Snodgrass, and she just seems to make things that are simple, enjoyable by lots of people. So I've had luck with some of her recipes in the past, and I think this will go with the Let's Get Fancy grilled pheasant, as well as with our apple pie bars. So I'm kind of taking her idea and running with it. I wouldn't say that what she put together is particularly novel in terms of, you know, shallot, oil, garlic, vegetables, and pasta, but I'm trusting her. So I'm just roughly chopping this. Again, one of those things is there's some people in research who think that, or who prescribe to the idea that things have to be a certain way, a certain format. I'm kind of one of those people that, yeah, we have rules, but we don't have to, and we have to be professional, but we don't have to be snotty about it, right? Elitist. No. Oh, and of course I'm getting a little teary-eyed, even with a little shallot. So this is nice and warm, and I'm gonna throw that in. Ooh, here it sizzle. And then, and I think I did a faux pas, and I didn't open up our red pepper flakes before recording. So I'm gonna do that. We're gonna push this around a little bit. You can kind of hear it sizzle. Oh, and it smells yum. Turn down that heat, and now I'm going to just kind of a couple shakes of red pepper, not a lot. My husband and I, we are spice lovers, but my kids are sort of wimps. So add that. Oh, it's still smelling delicious. Oh, and a little bit of garlic. Yes, I use garlic from a jar. Why? Because it's easier, and then my hands don't smell. So I think having a reason for things is what research is all about. Backing up the reason or why you do something is really important. So I'm just checking my recipe, and now I realize that I get to add some wine. So I opened up this bottle of dry wine last night, so we have some to share with the recipe. And as that's cooking, I'm just going to add just a couple splashes. And maybe that's like 1/8 of a cup. So a couple splashes, and I think that just adds a nice flavor to what will be the sauce. So as we do that, I'm noticing my onions are kind of cooking a little bit faster than I'd like to. I lost my train of thought. Sometimes you need a break, right? I'm going to zest this lemon and then add the lemon zest to the sauce. Okay, and we're back. So the bits of onion and red pepper and garlic have reduced a little bit with the yummy white wine. And now we're going to add the lemon juice, lemon zest, and the goat cheese. Yummy. So I'll open this up. And according to Alex's recipe, it's important to have it in the log form instead of the crumbled form, so it melts a little bit more uniformly. So sometimes just one extra little change can make all the difference. So for example, like in research, using a transcription software to transcribe things rather than painstakingly going through and listening and typing. Let's make life easier, right? So I zest about a lemon, you saw that, and I'm adding that to the pan, and then I'm also squeezing a lemon's worth of juice into the pan with it. And this is all melting down. Goes into my compost. And then I'll start stirring around that goat cheese so it gets nice and melty. Okay. I always feel like I have to wash my hands 1,200 times when I'm cooking, right? Okay. I'm gonna let that go around. I've bumped the heat down quite a bit. I was getting nervous that things were getting a little too spicy in there. So, and I'm also going to add about a half a cup of reserved pasta water to help with that melting process. Not the whole thing, just a little bit. That will really help it all come together. So, meanwhile, while that's cooking, I've got my spinach. What I did here is I had a bag of spinach. I threw it in the freezer a couple weeks ago, took it out today, squeezed out the remaining water, and now it's ready for the sauce. And then artichokes, here we go. I'm gonna drain these. Yes, I can do it by myself. I'm gonna drain these, and then that'll be added to the cheese sauce once it's ready. I'm also gonna chop up these artichokes just a little bit so there's not some big chunk with that. I know I like things kind of incorporated. Just a rough chop. The pasta is what will be added last, and we might use some more of that pasta water. Okay, here we go. Let's get this nice and melty. I honestly thought this would go faster, this melting of the goat cheese thing. So I'm also wondering if that's what happens in research as well, regardless of one's methodology or paradigm. And also I'm thinking a lot about how in postmodernist work, art and life and research are all kind of combined. So that is also a reason I invited you into my kitchen today. I wouldn't necessarily say on a Saturday I would be cooking so elaborately, but we are having guests. We're having a friend and neighbor over. His name is Chris, and he actually is the one who caught the pheasant, which I think is interesting to think about when it comes to our sort of gendered norms and how I'm cooking for all of us. My husband will be grilling, and so that I'll grilling the pheasant while I've made the sides and the dessert. So all of this is kind of swirling in my head as I think about what kind of research might be applicable to me. And so as this cooks down more and more, the flavors are starting to meld, hopefully. And then all of them separate, sure, makes sense. I love having an artichoke by itself. I love having goat cheese by itself. But when it all comes together, that's when the real magic happens. And based on one's interpretation, it will be good. Okay, I feel really good about that. We're going to add the artichokes. Stir those. We're going to add the spinach. It won't be very glamorous, but it will be done. And I'm going to kind of break it up with my fingers here. Again, research is never clean or perfect, but being able to communicate one's ideas, that's the thing that matters. That goes in the real garbage, not the compost garbage. And so I'm going to let this cook together, and we'll add the pasta in a minute. The sauce is ready. I'm going to add the pasta to a nice big bowl here, a nice serving bowl. And some of it got a little sticky because it stood there for a minute while the sauce was cooking. So I'm just going to kind of loosen it up. Add a little oil. Okay. Ooh. And now I'm going to add the sauce. Oh, that goat cheese smells so good. Now I realize what I am making, or what I'm doing. My positionality as a woman from Iowa cooking dinner for her family on a Saturday. Also being a grad student and an art teacher, but all my positions are informing the moment I'm here right now and the work I will do in the future. So based on my experience, I have a pretty good feeling about this particular dish, and I'm going to add some salt and pepper to my liking, knowing that other people will probably add more. Other people might add less. So in research and thinking about, regardless of it's quantitative or qualitative, a lot of what I've done here is kind of a mixture of mixed methods, really, because I've been using a recipe. I have a kind of a quantified result, but it's also qualitative in that there's been interpretation, there's a story, there is human elements. So regardless of what comes into this dish or this meal, I believe that it wouldn't be possible without me doing it. Sure, a meal would be had, but not this particular one. And so when it comes to research and thinking about positionality, that's something that is always at the forefront of my mind, especially when we think about all the kind of work that's been done before and what might be possible in the future. So I also have some chives here that, according to Alex Snodgrass, the blogger I'm following recipe, this really makes it shine. And when it comes to using other scholars, or in this case, a blogger, influencer, I think as long as that's recognized and admired, it doesn't take away from the hard work that I'm doing right now for my family. I realize that not all researchers will think that, or cooks, or people just making a meal. I'm gonna taste this really quick and to know if I need to add anything, and also to make sure it might be good up for my peer review, my family. I can taste the lemon and the goat cheese. Oh, I know I could have a whole bowl of this. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, just like the research I'm interested in might not be everyone's interest, but that's okay. Part of it is also that I'm passionate and enjoying it. So in our next part of our meal, we are going to assemble pheasant skewers. They'll be simply seasoned, and later we'll grill them, but I've never had pheasant. I usually just have chicken. So we're going to deconstruct the idea that something is what we normally have, and what are we eating anyway? So I look forward to doing that with you next. Welcome to our last part of our day today. This is pheasant that has been frozen and it has now de-thawed. It was hunted a few weeks ago. Personally speaking, I am not a hunter. This is not something I would normally cook. I would normally go to the grocery store and pick it out myself, but I am embracing a new idea, a new paradigm for this particular dish. So I'm going to remove the meat from the bags and cut it up into smaller pieces and skewer them. And then we will add a simple seasoning. That took a little bit longer than I thought. But I have, it actually looks quite pretty. I know that maybe if someone is a vegetarian, that would not be the case. So I'm just going to kind of glug some olive oil over these. And I often think that simpler is better when it comes to anything. So there is a seasoning that I like from that Aldi sells. It's called the Amazing Burger Grill Seasoning. No, these aren't burgers, but it's poultry or meat. So I'm just going to generously shake these on with them and do them front and back. And these will sit until the grill is hot and ready. And hopefully, again, full disclosure, I have no idea how these are going to turn out. I have a pretty good idea that they will be yummy, but also when it comes to thinking about what is and what isn't, I'm not necessarily going to tell my children that this is pheasant. I might just tell them it's chicken. And because what is poultry anyway? I want them to have a little protein. If they like it, great. If they don't, I don't know what else I can do about it. But I'm also using what resources were given to us by our friend, and it's forcing me to think in a different way. And when it comes to research and deconstruct, particularly the paradigm of deconstructionism, it's changing one's paradigm on purpose or forcefully. So that's what we're kind of exercising here. So these are going to sit in the fridge till they're ready for the grill. So at this point, the side is done. The apple bars are ready. These are ready for the grill. Our next time together, you'll see the grill hot and ready for these, and also us enjoying our meal. There you have it. Our meal is over. Our recipes that we have researched and used to help us better understand not only an occasion to come together and enjoy a meal, but also how research kind of works. So thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed our time together as much as I did. Until next time, happy researching.